The Blackwood Mansion in Beverly Hills was a damn circus on a scorching Saturday afternoon. The sprawling estate, with its infinity pool shimmering like a sapphire and marble floors so shiny you could see your own sorry reflection, was buzzing with the kind of chaos only a millionaire's party could pull off. Tiki torches flickered, the smell of pineapple cocktails and grilled steaks hung heavy, and some god-awful EDM track blared from speakers the size of small cars. In the middle of it all was Victoria Temps, a 30-year-old black woman with a sly grin and eyes sharp enough to cut glass, wiping down a glass table in her gray janitor's uniform. She moved like she owned the place, even if nobody noticed her yet. Then there was Richard Blackwood, 35, the king of this over-the-top kingdom. Picture a guy who looked like he stepped out of a cologne ad. Tousled dark hair, a Hawaiian shirt unbuttoned to show off a tanned chest, and a smirk that screamed trouble. He was halfway through his third mojito, surrounded by his crew of trust fund brats and his latest fling, Vanessa, a bleach-blonde influencer with a laugh like a hyena. Richard was in his element, holding court by the pool, when he got the bright idea to show off. "Yo, watch this," Richard hollered, grabbing a wakeboard and strutting to the pool's edge. "I'm about to make history." Vanessa clapped like he was goddamn Elvis, while his buddies Patricia, Vivian, and a couple of finance brochured him on. Victoria, polishing a nearby railing, rolled her eyes. "Here we go," she muttered, knowing this was going to end badly. Richard jumped onto the board, trying to surf across the pool like some wannabe pro. Big mistake. The board slipped, he flailed like a drunk flamingo, and splash crashed right into Victoria, who was carrying a tray of cocktails for the guests. The tray flew, and a rainbow of margaritas and daiquiris drenched her from head to toe. Syrupy liquid dripped down her face, staining her uniform neon green and pink. The crowd roared with laughter. "Holy shit, Victoria!" Richard cackled, scrambling out of the pool, his shirt clinging to him like a wet napkin. "You're a walking tiki bar now." Victoria stood there, sticky and soaked, but her grin didn't waver. "Real smooth, Richard," she shot back, wiping lime juice from her cheek. "You surf like you're trying to drown your career." The crowd howled. Vanessa, teetering in her stilettos, screeched, "Oh my God, Richard, you're such an idiot. You're embarrassing me." "Chill, babe," Richard said, still laughing. "Victoria's used to cleaning up my messes, right?" Victoria raised an eyebrow, grabbed a half-empty cocktail glass from the ground, and before anyone could blink splashed it right in Richard's face. The crowd gasped, then erupted again as Richard stumbled back, slipping into the pool with a glorious sploosh. His Hawaiian shirt floated around him like a sad raft. "Damn, Victoria," he sputtered, wiping mango puree from his eyes. "You got some balls, and you got no balance," she quipped, hands on hips. "Next time, stick to walking, champ." Vanessa was losing it. "Richard, get up. You're making me look bad." "Relax, Vanessa," Victoria said coolly. "I'll clean this up, but tell your boy to aim better next time." The party was in stitches, but Richard, climbing out of the pool, was red-faced not from the cocktail bath, but from getting outdone. To save face, he strutted over to a table, grabbed a gold-embossed invitation, and waved it like a trophy. "All right, Victoria, you're a riot. Here's a ticket to my charity gala next Saturday. Black tie, fancy shit. Show up. Let's see if you can keep up with the big leagues." Vanessa snorted. "Her? She'll show up in a thrift store dress and cry in a corner." Victoria took the invite, her eyes glinting like she'd just been handed a loaded gun. "Oh, I'll be there, Richard," she said, voice low and dangerous. "But careful, you might not like the show I bring." Richard smirked, turning to Vanessa. "$100,000 says she bails when she sees the guest list." Victoria, heading to grab a mop, muttered under her breath, "Oh, you dumbass. You just lit the fuse." As she disappeared into the mansion, Richard watched her go, a weird mix of annoyance and admiration in his eyes. Something about her made his pulse race, and it wasn't just the cocktail in his hair. If you're cracking up at Richard's pool flop and Victoria's epic comeback, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment with your favorite moment. Trust me, this story's about to go off like a Beverly Hills fireworks show. The Blackwood Mansion was a goddamn palace under the Saturday night stars, its chandeliers throwing light like diamonds across a ballroom packed with Beverly Hills elite. Jazz drifted from a live band, the air thick with the scent of champagne and overpriced perfume. Tuxedos and glittering gowns swirled around, every smile hiding a knife. Victoria Temps, the woman they all thought was just a maid, was about to blow their minds. Upstairs, Victoria adjusted her crimson silk dress in a guest room mirror. The gown hugged her curves like it was made for her, every inch screaming power. Her natural curls cascaded like a crown, and her eyes sharp, fearless held secrets that could burn this place down. She smirked, whispering to her reflection, "Showtime, girl." Downstairs, Richard Blackwood, looking like a damn movie star in a tailored black tux, sipped whiskey by the bar, his cocky grin masking a flicker of nerves. Vanessa, his influencer girlfriend, clung to his arm in a skin-tight gold dress, her fake laugh echoing. Patricia and Vivian, the resident mean girls of high society, whispered nearby, ready to pounce. The room froze when Victoria descended the grand staircase. Her heels clicked like a metronome, each step deliberate, her dress catching the light like fire. Jaws dropped, glasses paused mid-sip. Richard choked on his whiskey, coughing as Vanessa hissed, "What the hell?" Patricia, clutching her pearls, muttered, "Who let her in?" Vivian, smirking, said, "Bet she's drowning in debt for that dress." Richard couldn't look away. "Damn, Victoria," he said, voice low. You look like you own this place." Victoria's lips curved, dangerous and slow. "Don't I, though?" she replied, her tone daring him to challenge her. The crowd parted as she glided to the center, every eye glued to her. She was no maid tonight, she was a queen. Vanessa's face twisted. "Where'd you get that dress, huh?" she snapped. "Pawn shop? Or did you borrow it from some sugar daddy?" Victoria turned, unfazed, her smile cutting like a blade. "Vanessa, maybe focus on keeping your man from tripping into another pool. He's got a track record." The crowd snickered. Vanessa's cheeks burned, but before she could fire back, Richard stepped in, chuckling. "Easy, babe. Victoria's got a point. I'm a walking hazard." His eyes lingered on Victoria, a mix of amusement and something hotter. He noticed a waiter struggling with a tray and subtly took it, handing it off with a quick tip and a nod. The guy was a playboy, sure, but he had a heart buried under the ego. "All right, Victoria," Richard said, raising his glass. "You showed up, but can you hang with this crowd? Or you just here for the free booze?" She raised an eyebrow, grabbing a champagne flute from a passing tray. "Oh, I'm here to run this show, Richard. Hope you brought your A-game." Patricia scoffed. "Run the show? Sweetie, you're out of your league." "Am I?" Victoria shot back, her voice silk over steel. "Stick around, Patricia. You might learn something." The tension crackled, but Richard, grinning like a kid who'd found a new toy, extended his hand. "Dance with me, Victoria. Let's see if you can keep up." She hesitated, then took his hand, her touch sending a jolt through him. The band struck up a sultry tango, and they hit the floor. Their bodies moved in sync, close enough to feel each other's heat. Richard's hand rested low on her back, his breath warm against her ear. "Your trouble," he murmured, voice rough. "Good," she whispered back, her lips brushing his jaw just enough to make his pulse spike. "You need some trouble in your life." Vanessa fumed from the sidelines, but the crowd was hooked, whispering about the maid who'd stolen the spotlight. Diane, Victoria's journalist friend, watched from a corner, her phone buzzing with texts. "You got this, Vic. Evidence is locked and loaded." As the song ended, Victoria pulled back, her eyes locked on Richard's. "This night's gonna be one for the books, Richard," she said, her voice a promise. You ready? Richard, heart-pounding, nodded. Lead the way, firecracker. Victoria's smile turned wicked. Oh, I will. If you're buzzing from Victoria's grand entrance and that steamy dance, hit that subscribe button and comment your favorite moment. This party's just getting started. And trust me, it's about to get wild. The Blackwood Mansion's ballroom was a pressure cooker, the air thick with the clink of champagne flutes and the buzz of high society gossip. The jazz band played on, but the real music was the tension crackling like a live wire. Victoria Temps stood out like a flame in her crimson dress, her every move drawing eyesome, admiring, most judgmental. The Beverly Hills elite were sharks, and they smelled blood. Richard Blackwood, leaning against a marble pillar, couldn't take his eyes off her, his usual smirk faltering. Vanessa, his influencer girlfriend, was practically vibrating with jealousy, her gold dress looking tackier by the second. Patricia and Vivian, the queens of snark, whispered poison from their corner, while Diane, Victoria's journalist ally, lurked near the bar, her phone ready for the bombshell about to drop. The gala's charity auction kicked off, with millionaires throwing around cash like it was monopoly money. Victoria glided through the crowd, her head high, ignoring the side eyes. Vanessa, itching for a fight, saw her chance when Victoria passed by with a tray of drink-sold habits from her maid days. Oh, look, the help's back at it, Vanessa sneered, loud enough for heads to turn. She accidentally bumped Victoria's arm, sending a glass of champagne splashing across that stunning red dress. The room gasped, then tittered. Oops. Vanessa chirped, her smile venomous. Guess you're used to mopping up spills, right, sweetheart? Victoria froze, champagne dripping down her chest, but her eyes were pure steel. She set the tray down, grabbed a napkin, and dabbed at the stain, never breaking eye contact. Vanessa, she said, voice smooth as a blade. Spilling drinks is easy. Spilling lies, that's your real talent. The crowd oohed, a few stifling laughs. Vanessa's face went beet red. You little know your place, she spat. You're nobody here. Richard, who'd been watching from across the room, pushed through the crowd, his jaw tight. Vanessa, enough, he snapped, grabbing her elbow. Go cool off somewhere else. You're making a damn fool of yourself. Vanessa yanked free, her heels clacking as she stormed off, muttering, Screw this. Richard turned to Victoria, his expression a mix of guilt and something softer. Hey, I'm sorry about her. She's a lot. Victoria raised an eyebrow, tossing the napkin aside. A lot? She's a walking reality show meltdown. He chuckled, rubbing his neck. Yeah, fair. Look, let me make it up to you. Dinner, tomorrow night, my treat. She crossed her arms, smirking. Dinner, Richard, I'm not that easy to buy. Not buying, he said, stepping closer, his voice dropping. I just want to know the woman who's got this whole room shook. Their fingers brushed as he handed her a clean napkin, and the air between them sparked. Victoria felt her pulse quicken but kept her cool. We'll see, she said, turning away, leaving him staring. Patricia, sipping her martini, couldn't resist. Victoria, darling, you're bold, but you're out of your league here. Stick to cleaning. Victoria spun, her smile lethal. Patricia, I'd watch that tongue. I know about those shady charity accounts you've been skimming. Patricia choked on her drink, and Vivian's jaw dropped. What the hell's that supposed to mean? Vivian demanded. Stick around, Victoria said, her voice low. You'll find out. The room was buzzing now, the crowd sensing a storm brewing. Richard, still close, looked at Victoria like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve, and damn, he wanted to try. Earlier, he'd slipped a note to a waiter, who now approached Victoria with a small bouquet of red roses, tied with a ribbon. A card read, Sorry for the champagne. Give me a shot to make it right. R. Victoria's eyes softened for a split second, but she tucked the roses under her arm, unmoved on the surface. Inside, though, her heart skipped. The guy was a mess, but he was trying. Diane caught Victoria's eye from the bar, nodding subtly. Her text lit up Victoria's phone. Evidence locked. Ready when you are. Victoria took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 20 years of pain. She stepped toward the stage, grabbing the microphone as the auction paused. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice clear, cutting through the chatter. "You think I'm here for laughs, but tonight I'm telling a story about the Blackwood family and how they destroyed mine." Richard froze, his glass halfway to his lips. The crowd leaned in, hungry for drama. Victoria's eyes locked on his, a challenge. "You ready for this, Richard?" If Victoria's clap back to Vanessa and that mic drop moment got you hyped, smash that subscribe button and comment what you think's coming next. This gala's about to explode. The Blackwood Mansion's ballroom was a goddamn powder keg, the jazz band's notes fading under the weight of Victoria Temps's voice. She stood on the stage, a vision in her crimson dress, her curls catching the chandelier light like a halo. Her eyes burned with 20 years of buried pain, and the mic in her hand was a weapon. The Beverly Hills crowd dripping in diamonds and deceit leaned forward, sensing blood. Richard Blackwood stood frozen below, his tuxedo slightly rumpled, whiskey glass forgotten in his hand. His cocky grin was gone, replaced by a mix of dread and fascination. Vanessa, his soon-to-be ex, had stormed out after her champagne stunt, leaving Patricia and Vivian to whisper venom from their corner. Diane, Victoria's journalist friend, stood by the sound booth, laptop open, ready to unleash hell. Victoria's voice cut through the room like a knife. "You all think I'm just the maid, here for your laughs," she said, her tone steady but laced with fire. "But I'm Victoria Temps, daughter of James Temps, the Blackwood Corp's accountant. 20 years ago, Henry Blackwood, Richard's father, destroyed my family, and I've got the receipts." The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling like wildfire. Richard's face drained of color. "What the hell?" he muttered, stepping forward. "Victoria, what are you talking about?" She held up a USB drive, small but deadly. "This," she said, "has a recording of Henry Blackwood admitting he framed my father for embezzlement to cover his own theft and $1 million siphoned from the company." She nodded to Diane, who plugged the drive into the sound system. Henry's gravelly voice boomed. "Temps is on to me. I'll pin it on him. He's nobody." The room erupted in shocked whispers. Patricia choked on her martini, sputtering. "This is outrageous." Vivian hissed. "She's lying. It's a setup." "Lying?" Victoria shot back, her smile cold. "Keep talking, Vivian. I've got more where this came from." Richard pushed through the crowd, his eyes locked on Victoria. "I didn't know any of this," he said, voice raw. "I was a kid when my dad ran the company." Victoria's gaze softened for a split second, but her resolve held. "Maybe you didn't, Richard, but you've been living fat off his dirty money, haven't you?" The crowd was eating it up, phones flashing like paparazzi. Richard's jaw clenched, but he didn't back down. "If this is true, I'll make it right," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "But you gotta give me a chance." Victoria raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Words are cheap, Blackwood." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a delicate silver necklace with a sapphire pendant, glinting under the lights. The crowd hushed. "I found this in my dad's safe last week," Richard said, stepping onto the stage. "It's got your mom's initials, Et. It's yours, isn't it?" Victoria's breath caught, her fingers trembling as she took the necklace. It was her mother's, stolen when their family was ruined. Her eyes met Richard's, and for a moment, the room vanished. "Why?" she whispered, voice barely audible. "Because I'm not my father," he said, his hand brushing hers, sending a spark through them both. "And because you're worth more than this whole damn gala." The crowd was dead silent, hanging on every word. Diane, grinning, texted Victoria. "He's stepping up. Evidence 2 is ready." But Victoria wasn't done. She slipped the necklace into her clutch, her armor back on. "Nice gesture, Richard," she said, voice steady. "But this isn't about jewelry. It's about justice." Patricia, desperate to regain control, scoffed. Justice. You're just a bitter maid with a grudge. Victoria turned, her stare shutting Patricia up. Bitter? Maybe. But I'm not the one hiding offshore accounts, Patricia. Want me to spill those too? Patricia blanched, sinking into her chair. Vivian stammered. You can't prove anything. Oh, I can, Victoria said, her voice a promise. She faced the crowd, her chin high. Henry Blackwood didn't just frame my father. He killed him, and I've got the proof to bury his legacy. Richard staggered, gripping the stage's edge. Killed? He croaked. Victoria, you're saying my dad was a murderer? She looked at him, her eyes hard but not cruel. Stick around, Richard. You're about to find out. The crowd was a mix of gasps and shouts, the air electric. Victoria stood tall, the weight of her truth unshakable. Richard stared, torn between shock and a growing need to stand by her. If Victoria's bombshell and Richard's necklace moment have you shook, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment with what's got you hooked. This gala's about to go nuclear. The Blackwood Mansion's ballroom was a damn war zone, the air so thick you could choke on it. The chandeliers flickered like they knew shit was about to hit the fan. Victoria Temps stood on the stage, her crimson dress glowing under the spotlight, her eyes blazing with a fury that had been simmering for 20 years. The mic trembled in her grip, not from fear, but from the weight of truth. The Beverly Hills crowd millionaires, socialites, and snakescaped, their champagne forgotten. Richard Blackwood at the stage's edge looked like he'd been punched in the gut, his tux disheveled, face pale. Patricia and Vivian cowered in their seats, whispering frantically. Diane, Victoria's journalist partner in crime, stood by the sound booth, her laptop a ticking bomb. Outside, police lights flashed through the windows, but Victoria held up a hand, signaling them to wait. She wasn't done. Henry Blackwood didn't just frame my father, James Temps, Victoria said, her voice slicing through the chaos. He killed him, and I've got the proof to burn his legacy to the ground. The crowd exploded gasps, shouts, phones flashing like a paparazzi frenzy. Richard staggered, gripping a chair. Killed, he rasped. Victoria, you're saying my dad murdered your dad? She turned to him, her eyes hard but not heartless. Damn right, Richard, and you've been living off his blood money. Diane stepped up, projecting an email on the ballroom's massive screen. It was from Henry to Dr. Hamilton, the family doctor, dated 2003. Keep your mouth shut about Temps' blood work, or you're done. Next, a toxicology report. James Temps' body had lethal levels of arsenic. Victoria hit play on another recording. Henry's voice, cold as ice, filled the room. Temps knows I'm skimming millions. He's gotta go. Permanently. The crowd lost it. Patricia shrieked, "This is insane." Vivian, tears streaking her mascara, stammered, "It's fake. It's gotta be fake." "Fake?" Victoria snapped, her voice a whip. "Tell that to my mom, who cried herself to sleep for years. Tell that to me, who grew up with nothing because of your precious Blackwoods." Richard's knees buckled, but he caught himself. "I didn't know," he choked out loud enough for all to hear. "I swear, Victoria, I was a kid. I didn't know." She looked at him, her resolve wavering for a split second. "Maybe you didn't," she said. "But you never asked, did you?" The crowd was split. Some booed Richard. Others whispered pity. He pushed through, climbing onto the stage, ignoring the cops at the door. "I'm not my father," he said, voice raw. "Let me prove it." Victoria crossed her arms. "Prove it? How, Richard? With more flowers?" He shook his head, turning to the crowd. "Effective tonight, I'm donating $1 million to a new community center in South LA, named after James Temps. It'll fund scholarships, job training, whatever Victoria says it needs." The room went dead silent. Even Victoria's eyes widened, her breath catching. "Why?" she whispered, stepping closer, the mic forgotten. Richard met her gaze, his voice low but fierce. "Because you're right. I've been blind. And because I'm falling for you, damn it. and I want you to see I'm not him." The crowd was stunned, but Victoria's heart raced. She stepped closer, their faces inches apart, the air electric. "You think a check fixes this?" she murmured, her voice trembling with anger and something softer. Their breaths mingled, lips so close they could have kissed, but she pulled back, her eyes fierce. "Show me with actions, Richard, not just money." He nodded, undeterred. "I will, whatever it takes." Diane cleared her throat, breaking the spell. "Cops are getting antsy, Vic. Time to wrap this." Victoria faced the crowd, her voice steady again. "Henry Blackwood killed my father to hide his crimes. His empire's built on lies, and tonight it falls." The cops moved in, ready to question Richard about his father's estate. He didn't resist, but as they cuffed him for procedure, he looked at Victoria, his eyes pleading. "I'll fix this, Victoria," he said. "For you, for us." She watched him go, her heart a mess of rage and hope. The crowd was in chaos, some clapping, others fleeing. Diane grinned, texting, "Nailed it. Part 2's ready." Victoria clutched her mother's necklace, the one Richard returned, and whispered, "This is for you, Dad." As the police lights flashed, Victoria stood tall, knowing the fight wasn't over, but neither was whatever was growing between her and Richard. A year later, the Blackwood Mansion was gone, replaced by a community center in South LA named after James Temps. The sleek building buzzed with kids chasing dream scholarships, coding classes, art studios, all funded by the restructured Blackwood Corp. Victoria Temps, now 31, stood in her corner office, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Her tailored blazer hugged her frame, but that sly grin and fierce gaze were pure Victoria. The walls held photos of smiling employees, not old money trophies. Beverly Hills sparkled outside, but her heart was here, in the legacy she'd built from her father's ashes. Victoria was CEO now, having clawed her way up after that gala night turned the Blackwood empire upside down. The board, spooked by her evidence, handed her the reins. She'd slashed executive bonuses, raised wages, and poured millions into communities like the one she grew up in. Diane, her journalist bestie, was now PR director, strutting in with a coffee and a grin. "Vic, you're a damn legend," Diane said, tossing a tablet on the desk. "Forbes wants another interview. From maid to mogul, they're calling it." Victoria laughed, leaning back. "Not about the money, Di. It's about doing right by my dad." "Speaking of right," Diane teased, nodding at a framed sketch on the wall, a pencil drawing of Victoria, her curls wild, eyes fierce. "Your boy's got talent." Victoria's cheeks warmed. Richard Blackwood, the playboy who'd once splashed her with cocktails, was a different man now. Cleared of any involvement in his father's crimes, Henry's arsenic plot was his alone. Richard had spent the year making amends. He'd sold his yacht, donated the cash to Victoria's foundation, and volunteered at the James Temps Center, coaching kids in basketball. Vanessa, long gone, probably chasing some new sugar daddy. Patricia and Vivian had called, begging forgiveness, but Victoria shut them down cold. "Patricia, look in the mirror if you want someone to apologize to," she'd told one over the phone, her voice like ice. Today, the center was hosting a ribbon cutting for a new library. Victoria stepped outside, the LA sun hot on her skin. The crowd cheered as she took the stage, but her eyes found Richard, standing off to the side in a simple tee and jeans, no trace of the cocky millionaire. He held a wrapped gift, his smile nervous but real. After the ceremony, he caught her by the garden, where kids ran through sprinklers. "Vic," he said, voice soft. "Got a sec?" She crossed her arms, smirking. "Depends. You planning to dunk me in a pool again?" He laughed, rubbing his neck. "Nah, I'm retired from water sports." He handed her the gift, a small canvas. She unwrapped it, breath-catching. It was a painting of her father, James, smiling, based on an old photo she'd shared. "I painted it," Richard said, shy for the first time. Thought the library should have it. Victoria's eyes misted, her fingers tracing the frame. Richard, this is everything. He stepped closer, his voice low. I was a dumbass, Vic. I didn't see the truth about my dad, about you, but I'm trying to be better. Not for the money or the name, but for you. I love you, and I'll spend every damn day proving it. Her heart pounded. She'd fought trusting him, but his actions donating millions, volunteering, this painting spoke louder than words. She closed the gap, her hand on his chest. You're getting there, Blackwood, she murmured, her lips curving. And I love you too, but don't screw it up. He grinned, pulling her close. Their kiss was slow, electric, the world fading as the sun dipped low, painting the sky gold. Kids nearby giggled, shouting, Ew! Victoria laughed against his lips, whispering, No more cocktails, okay? Deal, he said, eyes shining. Later, at a press conference, a reporter asked, Miss Temps, where'd you learn to throw drinks like a pro? Victoria smirked. Ask Richard. He's the perfect target. The room roared. Justice wasn't revenge, it was building something better. Love wasn't promises, it was showing up. Victoria had both, and her father's name lived on. If Victoria's triumph, Richard's redemption, and that sunset kiss melted your heart, smash that subscribe button, share this story, and comment your favorite moment. Stay tuned for more epic tales that'll keep you hooked.